chapter clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob on mic.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to College Volleyball Weekly, Men's Top 20. And gosh, we are in our Week 9 recap, Week 10 preview, which means we've fallen over the midway mark and we are coasting into, in some cases, some of the mid-seasons for conference play, Dan and the MIVA. So with that, you have Jay Hosick of George Mason from the EIVA, Brad Rostratter of UC San Diego and the Big West, Theo Edwards of CSUN, also the Big West, and Dan Friend, as I said, from the MIVA, which is MIVA Getting all over the place. So with that, I wanted to start off with some our social media shout outs, and I'm going to throw it out to the panel because I actually wasn't super prepared this week. So
yeah, but somebody somewhere, a conglomerate of people have started hashtag NCAA MVB and a while back in a response to the lack of coverage that we're getting from the NCAA. And whoever it is, 22 million views as of this past weekend. And I'll tell you what, kudos to whoever that is running that show, because they are really taking the reins and running with it. There's a vacuum of information and content for the men's volleyball side. And whoever's doing this, good job, because that's awesome stuff. We're getting more and more views out there, and I heard somebody from Long Island is getting a little bit of love right now and pushing some content out there. But 22 million views, that's awesome stuff. So congrats to you guys. It's not by the NCAA, it's by somebody or conglomerate of people, and whoever they are, good for you, because you're doing a great job.
Well, if you're an avid sports fan and you're watching and following the Instagram tags of the various NCAA sports across the country, right? Men's basketball, beach volleyball, women's volleyball. There's a lot of activity from the NCAA posting a ton of stuff and really just doing a great job of supporting their sports, which makes sense and as it should be. And if you follow the men's volleyball one, I think the last post was over a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago. And so it's been awesome to see someone grab this thing by the horns and just do a tremendous job. 20 million views. I mean, you talk about something that obviously there's a void for this, right? Obviously, there's people that are interested and want this information. And so just awesome work by NCAA VB.
awesome. Anything else? Nope. All that I'll say is there are a lot of digital content creators who are putting phenomenal stuff out across the nation. Even I believe Fort Valley State has a guy that's putting, I wish I would have got his handle, but man, I've been impressed by the content he's been putting together with music and really firing up that program. And Isaiah Fed, their outside hitter, solid on digital content creation. Good stuff. In fact, he had a big week. We'll talk about that here. But definitely want to thank all those digital content creators out there. A few of you was working a big match on Friday night, and it was cool seeing the lineup of people courtside shooting content, getting pics, the photographers, videographers. You had just bloggers there interviewing athletes, so it was a great scene. So with that, let's go to our next news segment. And unfortunately, I have a sad bit of news. After our segment we recorded last week, I came across a post of the passing of Stephen Lee Sander. You're like, who's Stephen Lee Sander? Well, he's the dad of Brenden and Taylor Sander and Brittany Wardle, or formerly Sander. He had just gotten into, I'd see him everywhere. AVP, BYU days, juniors, USA, but such a incredible, humble, selfless man. Sacrificed everything for his kids and grandkids, and it was 58 when he passed. Just an unfortunate accident. So I was saddened to see that, because there are people in the volleyball community that you see regularly, and they warm you, they greet you with a warm hug, and they genuinely check in on what's going on in life. And Steve and his wife Kira are some of those people. So I know that you guys have come across the Sander family in competing against them, if not with them. So, but I just want to give you a chance to share a little bit.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of working on a club in Orange County years ago when they were both young kids and coming up the ranks. And, Kira and Steve were stalwarts. They were at every tournament. They were always friendly. They were always nice to everybody, whether you're on an opposing team or on the same team. And when Brenden and Taylor decided to go up to BYU to play in their collegiate years, they left Orange County and moved up to Utah, I believe. I don't know. I don't know if it was a permanent home. I think it was a permanent home. I think at first it was kind of like a vacation home. And Steve was, he was like a weekend warrior. He was either skiing or he was out there snowmobiling or he was fishing in the summertime on a boat. I mean, he was just an absolute, warrior going out there having fun every single weekend and living his best life. And Steve will be sorely missed. Super nice guy. And Kira, my thoughts go out to you and your family. I hope you guys are okay. And we'll all miss Steve dearly.
Yeah, my first experience, my first team I ever coached at Balboa, 15-year-olds, was Brendan Sander was on that team, and Kara and Steve were so kind to me and really every player, every coach, and yeah, just exactly the type of people within the volleyball community that we all love, and it's exactly why we love the volleyball community. So definitely sending prayers to the entire Sander family and everyone who's been around Steve and knows what a great guy and what a great person he is.
Yep. Anything else wanted to add there? I'll have to say, add on a favorite memory is watching the BYU TV broadcast and how Steve and Kara would strategically seat themselves behind the server and always somehow show up on screen. Oh, we didn't plan that, but they'd always show up.
Yeah.
The other piece of news, I know that this isn't the same discipline or the same surface, but a shout out to former UCLA, USA men's national team head coach and Love VB Wisconsin head coach, Matt Fuerbringer, who's now the director of USAV Beach Volleyball, which I know Dan has a lot of, well, you go in and coach a few teams here and there, but any thoughts on Furby and his hire?
Well, I mean, to understand the role, basically he's in charge of the men's as kind of the head coach for the program. It's something we haven't had. So ultimately, Sean Scott's still the director of USA Beach, but Fuerbringer got hired as kind of the men's logistic head coach for that group, which I think is huge for the continued growth and us trying to, foster a great environment for our USA Beach athletes. And so yeah, congrats to Fuerbringer. He'll be great for that. He certainly has experience internationally on the national team level and, as a coach, as a player, and then certainly played a high level of beach. So a really good hire, I think, for USA Beach.
Well, and if you listen to, I believe, and I'm sorry if I got it wrong, On the Sand, which is Trey Bourne's podcast that he does, he had Taylor Crabb and Andy on
Sandcast, right? That you're referring to?
That's what it is. Thank you.
Travis B. Order, Triborn, Sandcast podcast. Check them out. Follow them as well.
Taylor Crabb and Andy on there, and they were talking about the creation of this kind of federation of sorts, if you will. I know it's USA Volleyball is always overseeing it, but when you watch their podcast, they were talking about how in years past, USA teams wouldn't necessarily all train together. They weren't necessarily all for each other to win because they were all worried about points. And there was all these things that kind of pitted them against each other. And this kind of formation is now bringing those teams together and training together down to La Vista if they can. And, just creating a really neat environment where it's all about Team USA now rather than our team versus your team versus that team, but yet we're all representing USA. So Furby's the right guy for the job, and definitely excited about the future of USA Beach Volleyball.
Most of their training is going to happen out of Hermosa, though, just so you know, in that space. So that's where headquarters is, outside of Redondo. They kind of pivoted away from Chula Vista, just being on a natural beach and being able to train right there off the ocean. And it's attractive to pull other teams in and stuff like that. And so,
boom, there you go. Insider information that I do not have.
We shout him out because he's a former Stanford Indoor All-American, of course. and he does have his name on the Manhattan Beach Pier. So, and if you get to know the Fuerbringer family, and I do mean the entire Fuerbringer family, incredible people. And I believe a Mateo Fuerbringer is heading to UCLA next year, which if you watch, that dude is a beast, but we'll talk about that when he's on the court. So
Fun side note, I played against Furby when he was at Stanford back in the day. And I'll never forget, after a match, he would have on an ice bag that was taller than him around his entire shoulder because he took so many swings. I don't know how his shoulder is still attached, but yeah, Furby was a heck of a player back in the day.
good stuff. Hey, let's jump into our elephant in the room. I'm going to start off with the mighty Theophytes, or the Matadors of Cal State Northridge. What was your week like, Theo?
Yeah, I mean, we had a light week, single match, played against Cal Lutheran, a very local D3 school that's close by to us, head coached by Kevin Judd, a great and longtime friend of mine, who has done a tremendous job there. I think 2 seasons ago they won the national championship, and have been nationally relevant every single year. So had a really nice matchup with them, and I think they're an opponent that has grown over the years. I think we've played them now, I don't know, 12 or 13 times since kind of their inception. And but they've got a couple of really talented players, and yeah, it was an awesome matchup for us. I think we played really well. Got an opportunity to play a numerous number of guys, and but yeah, I mean, not too much to talk about, but some good volleyball, and we're facing off with a co-podcast member on Tuesday. Headed down to Brad's place on Tuesday, and looking forward to that.
Uh, what is known as the CVW Chatter Bowl. Well, Jalen Phillips, because he's on the AVCA Player of the Year watch list, came in with 13 kills, 360. He's more earthly numbers for him, but still phenomenal and still so fun to watch. So let's go with Jay and his Patriots of George Mason.
Yeah, we had a good weekend. Prior week we went up to NJIT, who was ranked 19th in the country at the time, and felt pretty good about going into the match with them, and just fumbled through a couple of missed opportunities and didn't end up winning, and luckily rebounded the next night against Fairleigh Dickinson. So we had NJIT coming into our house on Friday night. We made some adjustments and had some good week of training, and we ended up taking the match and beating a good NJI team. So happy about the way we perform. Aiden Welton's doing a really nice job. Alex Lilly's getting up there and putting some balls away and blocking a lot of balls. And our setter, Yorgi Zaharev, is doing a nice job at distributing the rock right now. So, we took that momentum against a good team on yesterday against Dominican from New York, who went 5 with Princeton and almost beat them. And we handed them a 3-0 loss and got some good momentum going up this week for us, going down to play a good Queens team and Belmont Abbey. And so it's exciting for us right now. We're kind of feeling a little bit better about ourselves and about our direction, and liking the way we're playing. So a good week for us. And NJIT is still a handful, and the EIVA right now is, even though Penn State's on top, still wide open, and people are going to be picking some people up. So it's still a lot of fun to be a part of.
All right, let's let the rest of the panel have at the Patriots and Jay.
I just want to say I told you so. If you guys remember last week, I said NJIT is coming to George Mason, and I think Jay's got some solutions. So fantastic win by them, and to see the numbers, Lilly doing some work, man. That guy had 10 kills on 12 swings, no errors. So hammering them through the middle a little bit, and then Evangelista doing some really nice things, man. So you guys are playing some good ball, some great adjustments being made, fun stuff to watch.
Anyone else? If not, let's go over to, I don't know, this is like a weird one. I was like, who should I have go third and then finish? But I'm going to let's go with Brad, because he had a 50-50 week. And I got to watch a little bit of your match down in Costa Mesa, California. So former gig of Brad Rothschild, but I'll let you do the talking.
Yeah, we had a weird week. We were at Vanguard on Wednesday night, and then we hosted them on Friday night. And then on Wednesday night, we lost in 5 to Vanguard, and they were a team that really had only played really, really, really good teams for the last month and a half or so. And with the team, we talked about how they're just prepped to knock someone off at some point. And then it was our job to make sure it wasn't going to be us. And obviously, it ended up being us on Wednesday night. They did a great job from the end line with their serves, really generated and created lots of points with some aces and some overpasses, and prevented us from being in system much at all throughout the course of the night. And then you pair that with they had some really good block and really good defense plan set up against us as well. And it led to kind of a back and forth match where they would have control of a set, then we'd come back, and then they'd come back. And it was just a very up and down match on both sides, really. And ultimately in the 5th set, they had 2 service runs late that gave them the nod and let them pull away from us and win in 5. And then the following night or 2 nights later, we were able to bounce back and win. And again, it was a very highly contested and a back and forth match. And their offense got a little bit better night 2 as well as ours. But then overall, we were able to kind of, being at home, we were able to be a little bit steadier, a little bit crisper in some of the different phases of the game, and then pull it off and win in 4. So definitely better to happen now than next week or a few weeks from now as we're getting Big West play, but not the ideal week for us. And but glad we got a little wake up before seeing Theo tomorrow night.
There we go. All right, panelists, jump in.
Brian Rofer, guy's doing a job, huh? He's building that program up, and kudos to him for a gritty win against a good San Diego team. And I know he would have liked to gotten both, but to get a split, that's pretty good for a program that is really on the rise and kind of finding their way in the MPSF. And Brad, I'm sure, did a lot of soul searching after that match, the first match, and made a couple of adjustments, and his players realized, hey, we got more work to do. And it's a good Dave Hunt always talked about the response the second night, and I think Brad's team responded pretty well, so that's fun to watch.
All right, anyone else?
I think it's interesting, people who watch both the men's game and the women's game. There's a lot of women's coaches that comment a ton about serving, right? And specifically, a lot of people struggle to understand the service errors and how that translates and why do the men miss so much. And I think there is always room for debate in that space. But I think looking at these 2 matches back to back, Vanguard errors at 20% from the service line, ends up winning in 5. But that's not the whole story. They essentially were able to edge San Diego by 2% in point scoring in that first night, right? Then you look at the second night, and they only err at 14%, and their point score drops by about 6 or 7%. And so it's interesting, is the serving a little bit easier? Is that part of the recipe? And I think sometimes a lot of teams are constantly flirting with this, how hard can we push? And how much does it, at some point it becomes a detriment, right? You can't miss all your serves. But the ability to push and to cause problems can be really, really valuable. But I thought it was really great by Brad. We talked about this with McKendree and Lindenwood, right? Lindenwood, you get that team at home, the serving is very different. Brad's team's able to come back home, get things going from a serving pass perspective, just a much cleaner performance, able to make some work of Vanguard on night 2. So, but good volleyball being played.
Yep. Well, that was Vanguard's first top 10 win in program history. And as I dug in a little further, they actually went back to 2009, but a CSUN team was outside the top 10, but because of wins that week, they pushed into the top 10 at 9, and Vanguard wanted to tout that one, but unfortunately it was a timing issue. So unfortunately now, Brad, you're now in the history books at Vanguard in a not so favorable way. So, but love you, Brad. It's a
Hey,
great match.
Brad, it's okay. Once you make your program good, those things tend to happen. So I'll keep it on that side. That's Rob's way of complimenting you about, hey, Brad, you've done a great job of building this program up. You know what
Really
I mean?
felt like a compliment too, Rob, you know?
Yeah.
I'm doing my best to work on my semantics and my delivery.
I thought I'd give you a positive spin on Monday, Brad. Just so you know. So
Well, I wanted to ask you this, Brad, on that five setter. There were 20 blocks for both teams. It was like a block fest, it seemed like. And when I was watching, there's some key timing of blocks in the fifth set by Vanguard that really gave him that edge. But man, that was there's some good energy on that team, and you could tell it was a Cole. What is
Cole
his name?
Oliver.
He
Cole
just
Oliver, Valley
lit it up.
Christian.
He picked it up in sets 4 and 5, and he seemed
Yeah, he was good all
unstoppable.
night. He's got a real good serve. He was a really good out of system attacker. Yeah, and even that fifth set, they start off with a couple aces and go up early. Then we come back, and then they come back, and then we come back and go up 12-10, and then they come back and finish us off on another run. So it was just, yeah, very streaky. Lots of good blocks, or not great attacking decisions as well. So yeah, all in all,
Yeah.
that's how it goes sometimes.
But your bounce back matches, Sebasani, 19 kills, 351, 3 aces. Looks like he didn't take the loss so lightly because he really picked it up as well. So
No, and the best part about it was, so I joked, or not really joked in the night, but on the way back, there was an accident in San Clemente. It sounded like a really bad accident, but the drive, which is normally an hour 20, hour 30, ended up being a 2 hour and 45-minute drive back after a 5-set loss. And it was one of those signs of, we didn't deserve a smooth ride home with how we played and how we performed. We definitely earned that traffic for sure.
so good. And I just want to shout out Willie Wong, also the setter for Vanguard that night. 39 assists, but he was really distributing the ball well. And got to shout out the local team. They're right up the Newport Boulevard for me here. So got to say hi to the local guys and Rofer and his crew. So let's go over to the last elephant in the room. And man, Coach Dan Fan and those Lewis Flyers, not the lineup I'm sure he was expecting at midseason, but you're still winning. So Dan, jump on it.
yeah, we had Ohio State came into town, and I thought we did a really nice job from the service line. I think it was 10 aces and 14 errors or something like that. And so, but put a ton of pressure and served well at home. So that was great to see. And kind of just stayed on Ohio State the whole evening from that standpoint. And then had another match against new NEVA team, Northern Kentucky. And they've got some talented guys. And so, but I think it's always, we play back to back like that, and you have a really good win, not to have a drop off. And so I was happy the guys were able to kind of take care of business in three. And again, they were pretty good from the service line, creating some pressures and some opportunities. But yeah, it was nice to be back. I had missed the weekend before, got hit by the flu when the guys went to Queens. And so it was great to be back on the sideline. And yeah, we're trying to find some pieces. Cameron Hoynes doing a nice job of filling in for OG for us. And really kind of balance us out a little bit, and so which is important in terms of us just having that flow, and so it's good.
Yeah, and as Jay said last week, the flu is undefeated this season, so that's knocked down a few of us.
Yeah. So,
all right, jump on, panelists. Lewis
Yeah,
Flyers.
I think any coach will tell you if you have 10 aces to 14 errors, you'll take that ratio any day of the week, and that's always good. And Dan touched upon it. You have a big win like that on a first night against a bigger name team, and then the second night can be a little bit of a hangover effect of sorts, where you guys maybe, I don't want to say take a little bit lighter, but they maybe they coast a little bit more, and that's a good sign of a good team, that they just kept the pressure on them the whole time. Because he's right, Northern Kentucky's good. They're going to be really good in the future years. Tim's a really good coach, and he's going to build that program pretty well. But yeah, Lewis could be the hot team right now. They're kind of feeling it a little bit, and gets a good win against a good Ohio State team at their place.
Yep.
I had a chance to catch, I think, the end of set one of this match, and was it Wallinga that got on that like scoring run of serving? Dan?
And Cam got 3 blocks.
Yeah. So Wallinga goes back to serve and gets the hybrid going. First serve gets just a clean ace. off the passer's platform. And then from there, Lewis just takes off, and the crowd is rocking and rolling. And I'm watching this going, Ohio State is in trouble. Ohio State is in trouble. If you know Lewis's gym, you know what that environment brings, you know what happens when they get a good team in there. I mean, it's just fantastic. And so watching this was pretty darn cool. The point score ratio was pretty impressive. Anytime you point score at 48% in men's volleyball, you're going to win some matches. So tip my hat to the Lewis Flyers. They're rolling right now.
Yeah, on the serving, and I mean, so basically 25% of the Lewis serves were aces or overpasses. Then when Ohio State actually got to attack, Lewis touched 55% of those balls. So you're looking at 80%, or 8 out of the 10 times, it's either an ace, an overpass, or a block touch. So 2 out of 10 times Ohio State was getting a clean kill. And dang, that is frustrating if you're Ohio State, right? And you look at the numbers and you see the struggles, their middles, their pins, and really offensively they had. And that's a testament to, obviously the guys going out and executing a really good plan, but then also being able to put it in place with some serving and attacking an opponent from the block defense perspective. But yeah, definitely a big way of controlling the match right there with the serve, block, and defense.
Yeah. Well, it's a good week for the Lewis Flyers, who are in the MIVA Get-In Conference, and we'll talk about the status of the MIVA as we go into our next segment, which is the eye-catching matches of the week. And who's feeling like they want to drop one right here? Anyone want to jump in? Or you want me to throw one down myself?
I think, Rob, you got to start with the one that you saw.
Of course. All right, so I guess I'll start. We'll go UCLA, number 1 UCLA at UC Irvine on Friday night. It was a near sellout. I'd actually argue it was a sellout because they had open seats, but there are people standing around the rails and not quite sure, but it was a 4,133. So Brenden, certain setups seats only 3,500, and others it can seat up to 5,000, but it definitely was a full house. Loud, electric atmosphere. UCLA, UC Irvine, a lot of connections between the two teams. Both Hawks and Niffen were both assistants at UC Irvine. So Hawks left UC Irvine after the 2006 national championship. Niffen came in as an assistant at Irvine in 2007. So there was so many like familiar faces in the crowd, but the play was amazing. Irvine dropped the first set, then took the next two, and that's where it got super electric in the house. It was loud. People were making noise. They're all into it. Monster block, all that stuff. But I am telling you, UCLA likes to lead teams in thinking, oh gosh, they got us beat. We can take UCLA. And then they turn it on in the late 20s or the low 20s, and they beat you. This on Friday night, it was, okay, we'll be down 1-2, and then the Zach Rama show showed up because he started lighting it up, which means Sean Kelly started getting more open shots. Irvine started making more errors, but I got to shout out Libero Chris Connolly and opposite David Decker, who get overlooked because he got 2, potentially 3 AVCA Player of the Year candidates on the team if you add in Cameron Thorne. David Decker, it just seemed like he's camping at the service line and showed only 3 aces, but I was hoping maybe one of you guys in Volumetrics can look at how many service attempts he had because he was creating so many problems from a service line. I felt like they were point scoring when he was at the service line for the Bruins, and Chris Conley was diving everywhere to pick up balls. I mean, they're at one point it seemed like they're 20-second rallies consistently for 4 or 5 straight points. So UCLA ended up being out on top. They jumped out ahead quickly in the 5th set, and Irvine started making errors because of the serving. It was just they were playing tough, and Zach Rama and Sean Kelly were not to be denied that night because, Zach Rama is making the case to be the Player of the Year. He is Captain Clutch right now. I've seen it at First Point. Seen it in some matches during the week against like Santa Barbara, the earlier match in the week, which they had. UC Santa Barbara put up a great fight. right there in the low 20s. And again, UCLA battled back to steal and get out in the sweep. So great match. But we'll let you guys talk from your very skilled eye perspective now.
I'll only say something quickly about Rama. We talked about it briefly last week. Rama's window is so freaking huge. I mean, it does not matter where the set is. He has range and he has heat and from anywhere, and is just impressive to watch. Rama should be in the top 2 of the conversation for player of the year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it. I'm not on that committee this year, but man, oh man, is that kid good, and his future is very, very bright. Again, bummer for everybody around the country that didn't get to watch that match live, because a 5-setter against top teams in the country, that should be absolutely on TV for everybody to see the spectacle of that match.
Yep. Anyone else?
Did Andrew had 17 digs, right? Yeah.
Oh, shoot, I don't have the box score up.
Yeah. Just double checking that. I didn't have the box score in front of me. So,
Volumetrics is saying Rowan had 11.
11. Okay. All right. So, but
well,
I don't know.
That's the other. Go ahead.
No, I just always impressed by Rowan. You know what I mean? So, like, continues to do it. I mean, I think they played Santa Barbara earlier in the week as well, correct? Yep. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, like, but I mean, he's certainly in that player of the year mix, and one of the best, if not the best setter in the country. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, if you look at his numbers here, and if you look at service aces and know UCLA's schedule, they've got Decker and Rowan all in the top 9. And Rowan had a phenomenal match. He was tough from the service line also. Not as many aces as Decker, but he was creating problems, and he was running the offense. You know, he knew when to get it to Decker, and then he threw a bunch out to Rama, and then Kelly on the bick. I mean, it's pretty apparent UCLA was really utilizing their defense to try and minimize the Jokanovic, the freshman outside from Cannes, France, on the Irvine side, because look at Irvine's middles. They were all hitting so well that night, but I think Jokanovic hit 212, so they're just trying to contain him. Effective enough for him, and they're able to get plays in transition because they were able to minimize the point scoring of Jokanovic. So, but a lot of that was because Rowan around the offense and Chris Conley behind the block getting some good balls. So,
yeah, I thought what was really interesting is the passing matrix and just the metrics of how this is broke down. I mean, Irvine outpassed UCLA by a pretty good margin, which typically tends to lead to a higher offense. And Irvine was underperformed them by more than 30 points. And so essentially they held Darcy to 216. They held Jokanovic to 194. I mean, really, the production from Irvine was much lower, even though they had higher passing numbers. And again, circling back to Andrew Rowan and kind of what that means and what they were kind of able to accomplish. I mean, Sean Kelly and Zach Rama, I mean, we all know how good they are, but match, week in and week out, they continue to prove that they find ways to win. It's not always perfect, but having a setter like Andrew Rowan, these guys are big on the pins. They're able to slow down legitimate Big West outside hitters and opposites. I mean, it's really impressive what this team is doing. And I think, Rob, you hinted at it here, but Conley has probably been one of the biggest additions to that roster in a really long time. And one of the most notable liberos who not only can he sustain from a passing perspective, but he lets nothing fall. No junk ever hits the ground on that guy's side of the floor. And it's pretty impressive watching him do what he does. Might even be a player of the week for me.
Yeah. Well, so I got 3 things with this. So talking about what Theo had mentioned with some of the hitting efficiency and kind of the difference between Rowan and just what makes the setter great, you know, where like normally you look at the passing and it should be the team that hits higher. But in first ball, you see Irvine hit 314, which is pretty good, especially against a top team. And then UCLA in first ball only hit 184. which is very uncharacteristic. Normally they're in the 350 plus range. All right. So big credit to UC Irvine's block defense and managing that first ball. But then the difference becomes in transition. UC Irvine hit just under 100 in transition to where UCLA hit 305 in transition. So that's a big jump there. And we talked, Rob, you mentioned the defense of UCLA against some of the attackers. One, digging the ball, but then two, being able to locate and put up a hittable ball to the attackers from there is massive. And especially we talked about the middles, between the four middles in this matchup, Cam Thorne, Micah Wong Diallo, and then you got Micah Goss, and then Trevor Clark. Trevor Clark is the newest to the middle position, being a junior college outside hitter for the past few years. And to have 22 attempts and 12 kills and be the most eye-popping in terms of the stat line out of those four middles, I think is very, very impressive for him stepping into that new role. And then to close it all out, you guys were talking about Rama, who played really, really well, but he was great after late in games in the red zone, after 20, whatever you want to call it. He was set 9 times late. He had 7 kills, no errors. So that's finding solutions and winning. Maybe it's just setting him and him taking over in those moments. But yeah, it was really, really impressive.
Yeah. Anything else on that matchup? UCLA, UC Irvine? If not, let's drop another match. Who wants to jump in?
I got a couple here, but I want to just comment real quickly. Prior to that match, UCLA and UC Santa Barbara almost pulled that out. I know it's a 3-0 sweep, but all three were deuce matches, 23, 26, and 30. So Santa Barbara figuring some things out. Good, almost push that thing into extra time. So just wanted to comment on that. The two that I want to talk about, one is Belmont Abbey taking a win over Mount Olive, 2 undefeateds in the Conference Carolinas, and now Belmont Abbey takes one to them, and you got to give a little credit to those guys. Jabril El Haddad with 10 kills hitting 438, and Zach Puentes had 10 kills hitting 348. So good job on Belmont Abbey to take it to the Mount Olive Trojans and putting themselves in good position for later on down the line. But the other one I want to talk about is Harvard, who is over in the EIVA, comes up with 2 big wins against Charleston, which that was not something that people would have seen earlier on the year. Zach Birdie having 10 kills hitting 316, and Owen Wolbert having 6 kills one night, 12 kills the other night, hitting an average of 525 for the weekend. I mean, that's awesome stuff. Harvard figuring out a way to beat a very good Charleston team. And I'm surprised that there was two matches that they lost up there, but got to give Harvard a little credit. They're finding a little life, and they need it right now because they're towards the bottom of the IBA, and only 6 of the 7 teams make it in. So Brian Bay is doing a great job coaching up there and giving his kids a new life.
All good calls, because as you mentioned, Jay, Harvard with those wins, they move into the 5 spot in the conference, which is important for conference tournament implications. So Princeton is the only team that's winless in the conference right now. But yeah, gentlemen, jump in on all the matches that Jay mentioned. Feel free.
Well, I thought it was.
The Belmont Abbey. Oh, Dan, you go.
I just talked about Harvard getting 2 key wins, and kind of where is Harvard's mentality at, and where was the team development at. So seeing that those guys are putting themselves in a good spot, what would you might say is the second half stretch of EVA conference play as they go into it. So.
Yep. What are you going to say, Brad?
Belmont Abbey, that's a huge win, especially with the Conference Carolina and home court advantage being really, really a huge piece in determining who's usually winning that Conference Carolina's championships and going in to the national tournament there. And I think one player that stood out, Alejandro Leon, their libero, he passed 75% good pass, and over the course of the year, he's at 60+% in system, which is a pretty ridiculous number for a libero. So.
Well, the Conference Carolinas with that, Belmont Abbey and Mount Olive tied for first place, which means there's still a second matchup to occur, which will probably most likely determine who's going to host, right? Because it's the team that wins a conference that hosts in Conference Carolinas.
Yep.
That's definitely one to watch. One race to watch out there. All right. We'll go. Let's go. Brad, you want to call your next a match you caught this week?
Yeah. Let's go for that. Where did it go? Oh, we got BYU Hawaii. BYU out of Hawaii. And I think first thing is huge credit to Sean Olmstead, Charlie Wade, finding a way to make this happen. I don't know the details, but obviously I believe Hawaii was supposed to be at the NIL tournament. And then for them to be able to pivot quickly after, everything went through with some TV rights and everything that we don't know about, for them to be able to pivot and BYU to get to travel out to Hawaii, Hawaii to get to host them, and to add that in later is huge for both programs, and for the sport of men's volleyball. So I thought first, like, huge kudos to both those staffs and programs being able to throw that together a little more last minute and to think creatively. It's a great representation, and especially for the Big West and the NPSF to get those matchups against two top teams in each conference is massive. And then just kind of looking at the match and zooming out, Hawaii 1-3 and then 1-4, or vice versa. And really, I think just the consistency of Hawaii's offense over time. Obviously Treads continues to develop and progress as a setter and run the show really, really well. And then you pair that with Adrian Rohr, who's a pretty good passer to begin with, their new libero Greenidge, and then Louis Sakanoko's continued development in serve receive and becoming a better and better passer year after year over these last few years. And then you pair that with their offense and everything they have high firing, and kind of Wade's continued emergence. And I think Louis Sakanoko, 15 kills both nights, hitting over 400 both nights. Just an impressive showing and high level competition for University of Hawaii.
Yeah. All right, panelists, thoughts on the BYU Hawaii series?
I thought this was an anticipated matchup, and just in the sense that we've been kind of watching BYU this year and trying to figure out, hey, how legit is this team? And it's specifically when you get them out of Provo, what does it look like? And obviously, there's no more difficult matchup than going to Hawaii and being on the island and facing off with that group. And I thought Brad kind of hinted at it already, but the performance of Tread and Tread Rosenthal, and then the outside hitters, both Rohr and Sakanoko, and then and Wade on at the opposite. I mean, all three of those guys killing the ball this weekend in both matches at a 50% or higher rate, and just doing some really, really high level things offensively. I mean, this team, we know how legit Hawaii is. They are the real deal. I think BYU, though, showed some promise just in terms of what that team's capable of. They had some moments where they were really, really effective and showed that they can compete at a really high level as well. So I thought this was a great matchup.
Yep.
I'll briefly comment on the fact that I think Hawaii was doing a fundraiser with the uniforms for the weekend. I think they were auctioning them off afterwards, or maybe they were only auctioning a few off. And some people were kind of commenting that they were ugly and it was tough to watch on screen. Are you kidding me? Those things were sweet. They had, the typical Hawaiian colors. They were black and they had hibiscus flowers all over them. And some of the flowers were red, and I thought they were sweet. If anybody out there has an extra one, send me one of those things. They were pretty cool looking.
Well, I believe I heard Kanoa Leahy mention on the broadcast that it was in celebration of the Chinese or Lunar New Year. And I didn't hear what the fundraiser was for, but I saw Adrian Rohr's Instagram post. I'm pretty sure his went up for a pretty high price, though. So, but I love what the Hawaii marketing does. Get the jerseys, the military ones. I love it. I wish we had the ability to do something like that,
Yeah, I do too.
Long Beach State also does that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
But one of the names I'm surprised you didn't really go into was, we talked about this AVCA Player of the Year watch list, and the beginning is Adrian Rohr, Tread Rosenthal, but Kainoa Wade, dark horse. Obviously the injury to Adrian Tetrisky or Christian Tetrisky, he steps in, has been on the top stat getter line for the last few matches for the Rainbow Warriors. Kainoa on night 2 or night 1, 16 kills, 20 points in the effort and the win. But he'd been doing damage all probably the last few weeks since he's got the starting nod. So, Hawaii's deep and good and big because Kainoa, I think they listed him at 6'9". I'm like, how do you get 6'9" from a Charlie Wade? That's the question I got to ask. So, but great, he's been playing so well this year. In
For the
place
record, Rob, I did mention him. Just for the
okay,
record.
okay, just all
He's
right.
doing some big time things, man. It's pretty impressive.
Yep. All right. I guess that leaves who we got here. I've
Uh,
lost.
I got Lindenwood and Fort Valley. I think it's a good one to talk about. Lindenwood went down, has been playing some really good volleyball, and certainly Fort Valley's probably got one of the toughest schedules in the country. If you go look at all the teams that they battled with this year. And so, but I think first night, Lindenwood came out 3-0, and then the second night, it went 4. But Isaiah Fed 23 kills on the second night, and what a great competitive match it was for that. So, and I think Lindenwood's still being led by Zach Solom, who does a fantastic job, had 40 assists in both matches, and then Luke Kraft, who's the opposite for them, who's been playing extremely well and serving extremely well. But yeah, I think a couple important wins for Lindenwood, of course, on the road, but a great showing again by Fort Valley. And we're probably going to see them in the tournament. I think he's scheduled them well. Larry has to get these guys battle tested and put them in a spot towards the end of the year. So.
All right, panelists. Lindenwood and Fort Valley save matchup. Thoughts?
I think we got a dark horse, maybe not even a dark horse at this point, but MIVA Player of the Year. I think someone in that conversation within the top 3 is Zach Solomon leading the way there with Lindenwood. He just continues night in, night out, continues to do a great job, and I think he's really the straw stirring the drink there and doing an amazing job running the offense. And like Theo hinted on back in January, just talking about how hard it is to block against that team. So Zach continues to do great. Luke Kraft continues to be emerging more and more. And then interesting, Owen Walsh, their middle, had 7 kills, 1 error, had 429, but 6 aces out of the middle blocker is an impressive showing. And to score some points like that from the middle blocker position is massive for a team.
Yeah, good call. Zach Solomon, by the way, 3rd in the nation in aces, averaging 0.721 aces per set. Only 2 in front of him, both from Long Beach State, Skylar Varga and Alex Condev. So Zach Solomon putting up some great numbers from the service line. And on Instagram, Set the Bick had a great interview with him if you have a chance to jump on there, talking to Zach and where his team's at this year after the wins this last week.
Well, between him and Luke Kraft, the 2 lefty servers, I mean, it really it throws a wrench in the whole reception thing for most teams, because they go from both end lines. They essentially serve from both sidelines, depending on who they're targeting. And those lefty whips, man, they're gnarly.
Luke Kraft, 7th in the nation in aces, just in case you're wondering, at 0.581 aces per set. So they've got some weapons from the service line. All right. Anything else? Any other matches you want to jump on that we may have missed and you want to highlight here?
I mean, Loyola played Ohio State on Sunday. So I think, important conference win for Loyola at home. I think Josh led them, statistically wise. And so yeah, I think it's weird Sunday. I mean, we played Ohio State Thursday, then it must have been a basketball conflict because they had 2 days in between and they played on Sunday afternoon. And so, but yeah, and you saw Ryan McElliott is back in the lineup for Loyola. So that's a big piece that is back in the lineup and looks like is healthy now. And so it'll be important as they go into more conference games coming up this weekend.
Yeah, McElliott is back, and then Sosa did not play. So Tyler Howard stepped in on the right for Sosa. So even bigger win, doing it without such a big piece like Sosa.
Well, that was my question for you, Dan. Miva Man is noticing that Ryan McElliott gets back in the lineup. What does that do for that Loyola team and the rest of the Miva? Because everyone's been watching him with Alec Van Owen. Is that right?
Vince Van Owen.
The set that stepped in after McElliott went down after the Hawaii series, but they were good then. What does that mean for this Loyola team now?
I know Sosa's not in. That's another thing. But they play Ball State Thursday. Loyola and Ball State, so they're both leading league right now. So I think that'll be a big match, and who's healthy and who's in the lineup. So
All right. Oh, there's Theo. Again, a drop
I'm
them.
looking at this. I'm looking at the standings in the MIVA. This is like one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Like this is as far as parity is concerned, it doesn't get any gnarlier than MIVA volleyball. The top 7 teams as of right now, the way it's listed, McKendree's 7th. Who wants to see McKendree?
Nobody.
Like that team is lethal, and right now they're sitting at 7th. I mean, it's just amazing. I think this is some of the most entertaining volleyball in the country, hands down. It is really, really impressive.
You forgot to mention that McKendree is only 3 games out of first place in 7th.
Well, and they're 1 game out of 2nd. You know, it's like it's just absolutely insane. What are we even talking about?
Talking about what are we even talking about? MIVA is almost 3/4 of the way through their season. Big West hasn't even started conference play yet.
We start tomorrow.
Well, and that's only because Sam Swiesky screwed up the scheduling. We probably will be starting next week, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
So are we going to see some changes to adjust to Loyola? I mean, and also the guys are getting healthier. I mean, I know that a bunch of teams are affected by injuries and illness, watching the change in the lineups all the way up to week 9. Gosh, it's going to shuffle the deck a little bit, I would think. I mean, the way teams have been playing.
Yeah, it's going to shuffle. And don't be surprised to see it completely go inverted. You never know. McKendree could be a hot team, and all of a sudden, they're in first place, and everybody else cools off. Whatever the case is, there's no certainty whatsoever right now in the MIVA.
That's why Dan's hair is getting a little lighter.
Yeah.
I mean, Ohio State was 4-1 before this weekend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Insanity. They had beaten Ball State at home and Purdue Fort Wayne at home, both in 3. So,
excellent. All right. Well, with that, unless there's another match you want to talk about, we're going to go into our Players of the Week. My favorite segment of our discussions from week to week is all you guys are arguing over who's taking who. So let's go. You know what? Because Jay usually stirs the pot because he goes last. Let's let him go first this time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to go with 2 people that nobody has on their list, I guarantee. But you know what? They need a little love right now. Zach Birdie, Owen Woolbert from Harvard for their 2 big wins over Charleston. Congrats, boys. The Crimson Tide. Not the Crimson Tide. The Harvard Crimson.
Crimson.
Just the Crimson.
Roll Tide. That's a Denzel movie.
Sorry about that. Harvard Crimson on the board with some wins. Great on you. Nice work.
All right. Let's go over to Brad.
Ooh. Rob, do you want me to stir the pot even more or keep it?
I love it when you guys
friendly?
stir the pot. Watching the engagement between everyone on the screen when you stir the pot is so entertaining.
Okay. I'll give you my 3 since I get to go early here. I got them all loaded.
Now we get 3. Is that what it goes? So like,
okay.
All right.
I'll start off. Louis Sakanoko, 15 kills both nights, 400 plus. Then to mess with Dan a little bit, out of the MIVA, Ryan Lewis, 19 kills, hit over 600, and then 9 kills, hit over 300. And Ball State's 2 matches this week. And then a pretty interesting stat line here from Long Beach State opposite, Gajek Wojcik. One night he has 12 kills, hit 786. The following night, 12 kills with 8 aces as well in their week of matches with Concordia.
Good calls. Let's go to Dan since he's been messed with by Brad.
Well, I'm going to go with 2 setters. I'm going to go with Zach from Lindenwood going to Fort Valley State and getting 2 wins. And then I'm going to pick Rowan, picking up 2 Big West wins for UCLA.
All right. And we'll go to Theo of CSUN.
Yeah, I think I got to go with Cameron Hoying. Big performance against Ohio State for the Flyers. 22 attempts, killed 14 balls, hit 500. Big time volleyball being played over there. And then my other guy's got to be Chris Conley. Like I said earlier, I think he's been just a heck of an addition to UCLA's roster and currently sitting at 107 digs on the year, and that's more than a third of their defense. So pretty impressive work by Chris.
All great calls. And then that goes to what you watching in week 10. Reverse order, Theo.
Yeah, well, I would say that there are a couple. The first one that I would definitely throw out is the LA rivalry, USC and UCLA. I think that's always an interesting one, and the way that UCLA is playing doesn't seem like they're very beatable. But if anyone can do it, it's that 7-foot duo in the middle over at USC, and maybe one of the best outside hitters that we have seen at USC and maybe in history, but for sure in quite some time, in Dylan Klein. So I think that's going to be a heck of a matchup. Excited about that. And then I got to go and talk about the MIVA because I think that, with all this excitement, it's definitely one worth discussing. McKendree and Ohio State.
Ooh.
And kind of just to see where Ohio State responds to, obviously those two losses. And I think this is kind of a back against the wall moment for McKendree to kind of see if they can make a push at the end here and make this second half run one to remember.
Yeah. All right. That's because based on what I'm seeing, if playoffs were to start today, Lewis would be in front of Ohio State, right? In that number 4 spot.
I
It
always
looks like because you have the head-to-head edge against them.
I haven't looked at it. There's so much volleyball left. I'm just wondering.
All right. Well, let's
Way
go to
too
Dan.
early to start paying attention.
Yeah. All right, Dan, you're up. What you watching week 10?
Certainly going to watch our CDW friends here compete in their match. That's fantastic. Northridge and San Diego to start off some Big West play.
I'm going to put a poll up on social to see who they pick.
Yeah. So another one I think would be big is Pepperdine, Hawaii. I think that's going to be a great match. And is that a 2-match series for those guys, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to confirm that. I didn't see the second one, but it's on the schedule. So
that's fantastic. And then I know Theo mentioned one of the MIVA ones, but the other one would be, we talk about McKendree and Ohio State, Lindenwood and Ohio State. And so, and I think I'd already kind of mentioned a little bit, you got the Ball State Loyola, which is huge because they're both first and second kind of in the standings as of now. So that'll be big. And that'll be at Loyola. And if you go through the history of how many times Ball State did not win at Loyola, it was a pretty long streak. I think they finally broke it a year or two ago, but there's a pretty high win percentage for Loyola at home against them for sure. So
yeah. You bring up an interesting matchup, though, the Pepperdine Hawaii series. And, was it close to 2 weeks ago, Santa Barbara swept Pepperdine and they held Hartke and Barnett to sub 200 hitting. I'm like, and Santa Barbara is not a big team. You got Schobel, who's at 6 foot, 6'1", a setter with shoes. But
Yeah.
And Riggs' guy is 6'4", 6'5". I mean, they're not a big team, but they just outplayed them. I'm wondering how Pepperdine's going to look against Hawaii, a much larger team. There's a point where there's a lineup with Rosenthal, I think, who grew again, is 7'2", and then Travell Jordan, 6'11", and then Rohr at the smaller 6'7", 6'8"-ish. That's their front row. So I'm curious how Hartke and Barnett are going to respond to a bigger block in Hawaii. So it should be a fun one for sure.
As one great Marv Dunphy used to say, it's not how big you are, it's how big you play.
There you go. Put that one in your whiteboard in the training room, right?
Yeah.
All right. Who we at here? Brad? What you watching?
Yes, that is me. I got 2 here from the EVA. I got George Mason versus Queens. Assistant coach, now head coach, going up against Jay at George Mason. And then a very interesting one, especially now with Harvard playing well, but St. Thomas Aquinas versus Harvard. St. Thomas Aquinas has been on the cusp of some really big wins, and Harvard playing a little bit better now. I think that could be 5-set battle that we end up seeing, and could be some pretty good volleyball out in Massachusetts.
Good stuff. All right. Jay.
God, they covered out so many. There's so many good matches this week, but I'm going to go. I just want to echo the few that they said because they're really good to watch. UCLA USC, not a problem. One of the better matches to always watch. part of my hot takes questions is, will anybody beat UCLA this year? And USC is one of the 3 remaining teams that I think could do it. So that'll be fun to watch. I'm going to be watching Ball State Loyola because that's going to be a good match. I'm going to be watching Ball State of Lewis. I wonder if Lewis could, not want to say steal it, because it's not like Lewis is not a good team and Ball State is all world. But, Lewis is a team that could take this from Ball State and all of a sudden start the whole inversion of the whole MEVA and put themselves in a position later. I'm going to be watching Penn State at Long Beach State. Penn State's having a good couple of weeks here and figuring some things out. And Long Beach, still obviously a great team. Can Penn State steal one or maybe 2 and be able to figure some things out? But let's just talk about this for a minute, because, ladies and gentlemen, it is March 2nd. March 2nd. Let that sink in for a second. We are in the week of daylight savings time, starting to kick in this week, and things are warming up. It's going to be in the mid to high 70s here on the East Coast in the next few days. But you know what we're going to be watching? This is for all the first timers in America. This is for all the virgins in America that are finally going to get some. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get a taste of what Big West volleyball looks like, because we're going to see what CSUN in San Diego look like as the first time match of the Big West. Finally, Big West. We're finally going to get a taste and see who's going to be on top, because one of you is going to be in first place after tomorrow night.
It's a good call. I think we're pulling people for sure on this one. Well, all great picks. And actually, Jay jumped into the new segment we're going to try out to end out our week episode. Jay's quick hits. So we're calling it. Here's the question. Number 1, the new hot team is or will be. Is that 1 or 2-part question, Jay?
It could be either or. Just somebody who you feel is going to be hot or is recently hot.
All right, let's go. Let me go with, let's start with Dan on this one. The new hot team is or will be.
Lindenwood.
All right, Brad.
Lewis.
Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
I'm going to go with Lindenwood as well. 13-1 with the only loss coming to Ball State in 4. So Lindenwood.
All right, Theo.
I feel like this is a trick question, guys. It's UCLA. It's really simple.
All right.
Ridiculously hot, still hot, is going to be hot. Here we go.
All right. Next question. Assuming Karch retires after 2028, who is the next national team head coach? Dan.
Dave Hunt.
All right. Former CVW panelist, just got to throw that out there, who left the men's game for Texas, but I don't blame him. Pretty good area there. Brad.
Alfie Reft.
Wow.
Alfie Reft?
He just took the gig at Love San Francisco. All right.
Did you say Alfie Reft?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay. All right,
For
Jay.
the men's national team?
For those of you listening, that's Jay.
Why am I the only one surprised here? Alfie hasn't coached on the men's national team.
I want to see everybody else's names. I just I don't know.
I'm not saying Alfie wouldn't be a good choice, but I completely out of left field for me. That was awesome. I didn't know that.
All right, Jay. How about yours?
First of all, Alfie, I love you. You're one of my boys. I love you. No slamming against you. I got 3. Could Luca take over? That could be one possibility. One person on this panel, I think, should be mentioned, Dan Friend. But if there's anything going on with USA Volleyball and the lineage that Sparrow seems to be bringing over, John Hawks could be a mention.
Okay. All right, Theo. Next national team head coach.
I got a couple here. And before he became the Beach head coach, I thought Matt Fuerbringer would be a guy that'd be in the ring for that for sure. Even though I think he's enjoying being retired, I think Alan Knipe would come back for a second stint. I think that'd be a really interesting one for sure. And then I think the third name that rings a bell for me, and I think it'd be a unique pick, but one that would be worthy, is Charlie Wade.
Oh,
I thought we were doing just one for these, but now I'm a little jealous because I had other good ones I thought as well.
Sure, throw them out.
We got Brandon Talifero.
Okay.
I had David Hunt as well. And then two kind of sneaky ones, David Smith and then Ryan Ammerman.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
Interesting.
All right. Next question. Who will be the first team to beat UCLA? Dan.
Lewis.
I love it. There goes
Knock
the
the
camera.
camera over.
My camera panned away because that was such a bad answer. Anyway, first team to beat them. I don't know. It's tough. Maybe USC. Yeah. Is that away or home, this one?
There's a home and home series.
Yeah, so it'd be the one at SC, I think, if it was going to be one. So,
where do they start? I think they're at UCLA first.
Yeah.
No, they're at Galen
They're
first.
at SC first.
Yeah. Okay, it's SC. All right, Brad, first team to beat UCLA.
Ooh. I got Outrigger, Hawaii, March 14th.
Thanks for not saying Lewis at the outrigger.
Well, that answer was already taken, Dan.
Weird things happen at that outrigger, and that's what makes it so fun to watch. All right, Jay.
Yeah, no slam to Dan. No slam to Dan. Of the remaining schedule of UCLA, I've got three teams that could possibly do it: USC, Hawaii, or Pepperdine. I too am going to say Hawaii. I think they're a team that at home is very dangerous, and against a UCLA team, Hawaii can muster up that energy. I think they're the team that's going to have the best chance.
All right.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at it between SC and Hawaii, I think SC does a good job in terms of the crowd, right? Like they're definitely, because of the two LA teams, there'll be a good crowd there. What they're going to see in Hawaii is a different level in terms of the energy and those Hawaiian fans getting on them. But, I think both those teams are just as talented. And if someone doesn't play well, I mean, you're going to lose a match to USC or Hawaii. But I think Hawaii's got the best shot having them on the island.
Other things to look out for. Pepperdine has seemed to have UCLA's edge at least once a year. I don't know if that's necessarily always true, but it always kind of feels like that. And then MPSF tournament out at BYU. That could be a semis or a finals, but I could see BYU sneaking up on UCLA in the MPSF postseason out there.
Yeah. Well, I got to drop one because, I mean, just by the ratio of matches and who they face USC twice. I don't think there's any way that UCLA is going to take both. I mean, I think that one at Galen could be the huge one. But if that match were after the Pepperdine match in Malibu, I think Pepperdine, just because Winder has this ability to get his teams dialed in late, and that would be the one I'd be watching for. So all good stuff. And this is the hard-hitting question to close out our segment and potentially our episode. The next coach to retire is fill in the blank.
Let me clarify this for a second. This is not who we want to retire. This is not who we think should leave the game. This is not who we wish would leave our ranks. We love you all dearly. This is just merely with the recent rash of retirings and guys jumping over to the women's game over the years. Just some people that should deserve a little kudos for being around. And who might be the next one that wants to go play golf, maybe go fishing, maybe spend time with their family or traveling a little bit more than dealing with all the NCAA madness. So there's my caveat.
Jay's explanation. So Dan, he's giving the thumbs his own way. So is it going to be yourself, Dan?
No, I can't retire.
Dan's not going anywhere.
No.
Dan, how long have you been in the game now, coaching at Lewis?
Coaching at Lewis, 22 years. Head coaching 25, coaching 30.
Wow.
So, but still got to work. I got a 9-year-old.
She's got to go to college, so I get it.
Yeah. Mine might be Rick at Santa Barbara. I don't want him to, but I could see him kind of, hey, doing some golfing and surfing and, kind of pivoting and going a different direction. My other one would be maybe Rummy at St. Francis, but I don't know where his kids are. I mean, I think with the pivot to D3, and Rummy's a great person, a great coach, so not sure where he might be at in terms of that. So
Yeah.
Well, word on
I
the
thought
street.
he already
Rummy,
announced that he was retiring.
who?
right?
Yeah,
No.
I thought last year we were talking about Rummy retiring. No?
No, that was the discussion of when they went D3, would he stay, would he not? The recent word on the street that I heard is that he is working on a deal to stay. I don't know how long the deal will be for. I don't know if it's long-term, short-term, but I have heard the rumor on the street is that he will at least be at St. Francis for a little while longer. So good for him.
Yeah. All right, Brad. Who is the next coach to retire?
I'm kind of following a little bit of a path that Alan set here, but John Costi, Cameron Costi's in his college career, so maybe for his senior year to go be a super fan and see his son play a ton, or maybe right as he finishes, just like Alan did with Aiden. So I got John Costi, and then my other one is probably the more fun, spicier one, Nikki Sandlin, to be the athletic director of McKendree. She steps away from coaching.
Wow. Okay. All right, Jay, you drafted the question, but I know you got a good answer.
I'm gonna throw one more caveat. This is not for recruits to go call these coaches and go, I heard you're retiring, I'm decommitting. There's none of that going on. We're not giving any information away. This is just purely for fun, everybody.
Yeah, and hate mail to jhosick@gmail.com.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the dark horse, but let's just look at this for a second. Dan is now one of the elder statesmen at 22 years at one program. In fact, if not the elder statesman, I do not know of a coach that has been in his program longer, with the exception of Pav, that is retiring at the end of this year. I don't know of anybody who's got the length at one program and has done so much. So Dan is the old man in the group, seriously. But then you got Costi.
It's not Gandalf, it's Dan Golf.
That's right. You got Costi with 19 years. You got Rick with 18 years at Santa Barbara, who, by the way, is only the second coach ever to be at Santa Barbara. That's gnarly in its own right. And Charlie Wade at 16 years. I'm going to go with a really weird dark horse. You ready with this? Because he just likes to think outside the box. Niffin at UC Irvine is going to retire next. And he's going to go off into the sunset. He's going to buy a tent, and he's going to live on the Gold Coast in Australia with his family, and he's going to surf the rest of his life and play the ukulele and just enjoy the rest of his life knowing what he's done. So.
I'm going to clip this and send it to Niff.
I love you, Niff. You know I do. I'm glad. I'm not saying anything specific.
All right, Thea, that leaves you. The next coach to retire is...
I feel like we've kind of touched on all of them. I think the only guy left to maybe talk about is a guy who already retired once and returned, which is Rofer. Yeah, and honestly, it's more not necessarily he's building that program right now, so I don't really see it happening soon. But you look across men's volleyball right now, and you got Dan Friend, you got Jay Hosick, you got Colin. Over at Penn State. There's a lot of guys that have been in the game for a really, really long time. But they're all doing a tremendous job. And even Rick McLaughlin, I mean, the guy's done nothing but dominate for a really, really long career. And I don't see any of these guys stepping away anytime soon. Maybe Rick is probably the one that I had on my list as somebody who could definitely ride off into the sunset. But the game is so young right now that it's hard to imagine guys leaving for anything other than what would be an upgrade or potentially an opportunity like Nikki, right? Talking about her getting into the administrative side of things. But yeah, that's Rofer would probably be the one that would come to mind that we haven't mentioned so far.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Jay could retire and go to Cabo and just hang out and drink margaritas and tacos, and he'd be okay. Do you know what I mean?
Listen,
yeah, I feel like not having kids is a real plus at that whole figuring out when you can retire thing.
Smart guy right here, real smart guy. Yeah, no, I'm not.
The fact that Jay never came up in that, he was smiling a little bit bigger and bigger as he kept sneaking out. He was like, "Whoa,
no chance of retiring just yet, my friends. I got a little bit left in the gas tank."
Well, I was talking to Costi when he came down to Irvine. He's actually been coaching for 30 years because he was an associate head coach I was like,
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that era of your career, but but then again, he's such a great dad, and I know he's so proud of Cameron at Irvine, and it's just cool seeing Costi out there. He's one of the faces that you just really enjoy seeing, be it recruiting, coaching, but he's such a big part of why the game has grown the way it is. He's such a upstanding individual. So, but he is definitely one of the elder statesmen along with Dan. So I'm not saying age has a lot to do with it, but a kid in college will keep you in longer. That's for sure. That's what we're getting from our conversation.
Is you got to pay the bill.
All right. Well, with that, if there's anything else you guys want to drop, feel free. But if not, 3, 2, 1, nothing else.
I just want to put something out there. The Southern California Indoor Volleyball Hall of Fame. If you guys don't know what it is, or if the listeners don't know what it is, it's a group of people that have essentially, for a very long time now, I think we're close to 40 years in, since its inception, or 30 years in, have inducted all of the really great names who have had a huge impact on our game. And I think the ceremony this year for the new inductees, which includes Bob Samuelson, former Matador and Olympic player, they are having their event on May 3rd. They do a whole host of fundraising to help this event, and to really put a spotlight on some of the real greats in our game. As far, Alan Knipe is in there, Matt Fuerbringer is in there. There's I think John Speraw is in there. There's a lot of Gary Sato is in there. I mean, all of
the whole
all
Sato
of the guys.
family.
Yeah, that probably. Jeff Nygaard is in there. I mean, all the guys who have had just a tremendous impact on our game. And so I wanted to just at least put it out there and shout it out. If anybody is willing to make donations or wanted to help support that event and that cause, the website is SoCal Indoor Volleyball HOF Hall of Fame .com.
Yeah, excellent. Just want to add that Charlie Brand, my analyst on the broadcast, is also an inductee of the Southern California Indoor Volleyball Hall of Fame. So
yes, he is.
And he keeps me on the rails on the broadcast as well, so I don't go, too crazy and get the FCC on us. So with that is episode 298. As we're coming up on episode 300. Wow. And a lot of OGers on here, and the newer faces, all great contributions. And best of luck to your teams this week here in week 10, which is been out to be a doozy. Watch that Miva Geddon going on, Big West starting, and Jay back in action in the EIVA. But plenty of volleyball. Be sure to follow all their programs. That's Jay Hosick of George Mason, Brad Rothschild of UC San Diego, Theo Edwards of CSUN, and Dan Friend of Lewis. Best of luck this week, and look forward to chatting next week.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Aspero at The Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.